Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Davidson. So, wanted to share with you guys my takeaway from reading this book called Mastering the Basics with Dean Karrel. Simple lessons for achieving success in business. So, this book was pretty interesting. It was gifted to me from a LinkedIn Learning author, one of my favorite authors, Dean, who's this very charismatic, very likable guy who's a master networker. So I'll share with you. I actually just wrote a blog post about it. Um, my takeaways from reading it this weekend. And yeah, I wanted to read with you. So in his book, he talks about his philosophy. So his top 10 tenets are being good to people, smile and say hello, have a good work ethic, send thank you notes, always be learning, lifelong learning, confidence, believe in yourself, integrity and character, be authentic, be genuine, and planning and preparation and knowing your priorities, family comes first, and focus on what really matters. So the reason why I think his book resonated with me is it helped me think a little bit more about my personal statement. I've had different iterations of it, so I definitely recommend for you to like switch it up every year so that it's more relevant to you, right? So I'm sure as I have kids and as I get married, it's gonna start to change a little bit more. But what I came up with this weekend was to empower others through vulnerable sharing, creating possibility, leading by example, creating a community of healthy, mindful professionals aiming to leave the world better than when we came into it, came into it through giving back, being of service, and by living a healthy lifestyle through meditation, thoughtfulness, and appreciation of life itself. And the reason why I mentioned those things is because I think if we lead by example and we're taking care of our health and we're in a healthy mind state, whether it's through meditation, going to therapy, or working on our both our physical and our mental well-being, we can be the best versions of ourselves. And if we can do that, then we also inspire others to focus on themselves. And then whenever you're sourced, you're able to help out others as well. So these were my favorite passages from the book. I'll read you some of them. So, okay, there's a book that talks about being authentic and being genuine, and that really resonated with me because I think that a lot of us like try to change depending on what our managers, our colleagues, our coworkers, our friends, or community wants us to be. But I think it's important to dig deeper into like what really drives you, right? So the passage says, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to change your style or personality. What you need is to be yourself, be real and authentic, and be authentic because that's who you are. We can all improve our qualities and skills, but deep down inside, we can't change who we are without risking being a phony. For me, authentic boils down to three qualities: vulnerability, character, and transparency. So, and then he talks about being authentic means that you're just being who you are. You're not trying to change yourself based on your colleagues or who you're meeting. It's showing your positive skills while at the same time not being afraid of letting others see your weaknesses, areas where you need to improve, and even exhibit a dose of vulnerability. And I think like why this resonates with me is because I know like when I was, as I like, especially younger in my career, I would always try to like emulate my manager or like these amazing sales reps who I worked with. And then at the end of the day, I realized like that everyone's different. And the more I was trying to emulate them, the more of fake I felt. I do think it's important to be like coachable and be agile, but I think at the core, you should know deep down inside who you really are. And by creating that personal mission statement, it helps me, if I'm trying to figure out like, what I want to do and how I want to be for people. The next passage is being fair. So he says, when you're fair, you show respect, understanding, thoughtfulness, and treat people equally. I also feel that truly listening to others plays into this, along with being a role model and a leader to all and not showing favorites. Um, so I think this resonated with me because I definitely think that, humans in general, we always kind of we treat like people differently, and we have all these preconceived notions and biases. And I do think that being fair, you start to really appreciate people for who they are, and you don't want to try to change them and want to um, people to be a different way, because that with all that resistance, there's a lot of life becomes a lot harder. So, and then there's a part about he says, however, developing your confidence is more than just improving your surroundings. It's how you assess yourself and how you feel deep down about your work, your personal life, and you in general. So, oh yeah, and then it says, and he says, for me, I found that every so often I try to take a step back and evaluate how I think things are progressing with my work, my career, and my personal life. I do this in an informal way. I don't try to overanalyze things, and I review things in small pieces. I used to be very hard on myself in the middle stages of my career, and then I studied confidence more. I realized that it's okay to not be perfect. Maybe I could have done things differently, but I'm happy and I feel good about myself. So the reason why this really resonated with me is I think that we're always our own worst enemy. And I think that at the end of the day, like no one is perfect, right? And I think the more people that are high achievers, I think at times it's helpful to be very like attention to detail, but I think it can also be very like draining and exhausting if you're beating yourself up, right? So having self-forgiveness is really important. Um, in the last few passages I'm going to read, he talks about like, don't be afraid to say no. So throughout our lives, we often experience pressure to participate, show support, and say yes. That that can join a meeting, be in that task force, or help support some local cause. We all want to help and be there to lend a hand or be that positive voice for a manager or a coworker. However, how many times have you said to yourself, why did I say yes and agree to this? And then it goes back even further. It goes even further. We say yes and find ourselves struggling to fulfill our commitment. Our our other work suffers, and we end up not doing a great job with the task we agreed to help out on. We need to respect our time, realize we can't do everything, and not feel guilty when we say no. It comes down to being honest with yourself and being realistic to the person asking you. It's much better to be upfront right from the beginning rather than backtracking later on. So don't be afraid to say no. I think a lot of people pleaser can resonate with this, where um, when we take on too much and when we say yes to everyone, sometimes we are doing ourselves a disservice, because either we half-ass it, or we're not really. I think something that resonates with me is just only take on nines and tens. Like, how many times have you took on like a 6 or 7 or 7.5, right? These are things that take up your time and ultimately does not bring you joy. So definitely keep that in mind. Um, and the last thing I want to bring up is he has a passage about don't burn bridges. Definitely learn the hard way. By the way, we end up working on a number of projects together over the next few years. I realized that I was part of the problem at my old job, and I ended up telling him this story. We laughed as he admitted his management skills were a bit lacking back then too. If I burnt that bridge, it would have cost me anyways. So this definitely resonated with me, because I think like too often we're always blaming our manager as like the source, but it's equally you as much as it is your manager, right? And a lot of people, it's hard for them to realize that. I had to learn the hard way from going through like therapy and noticing the patterns of like why I kept quitting jobs. So just wanted to share with you all this. I appreciate you all and would love any feedback. And definitely go check out Dean Karrel, check out his book. Once again, it's Dean, Karrel, Mastering the Basics, Simple Lessons for Achieving Success in Business. Cheers.